was working at different jobs, which I have described in the Columbus area where I lived then. And during that period of time, I was concerned about the situation and what my situation might be. And that's what pretty much prompted me to sign up with the Navy. I knew when I was working with the FBI in Washington that I would have to be called up. So at that point, I was working at the FBI, and my father had just died. I think I mentioned that in there. So I came back to Columbus to visit with my mom and my sister. And when I did that, I decided to join, and then went back to Columbus and worked at the railroad for a period of time. I worked at David Davies Meatpacking, Lazar's Department Store, and I knew I was going to have to be called up, so I, together with two other roommates, we decided to join up and beat the gun, so to speak, rather than being called up and having to go to the regular service as a first class, second class, or whatever in the Army or Navy, whatever they would, however they would have put me. We decided to sign up, and that's how I got into the Navy. Now, when I heard about the war over there, when I heard about the attack on Pearl Harbor, that was quite alarming, of course, and that's pretty much prompted me to join up. Now, that was the kickoff that got us into World War II. Up until that point, we were in Lend-Lease conditions with the British and the French too, providing supplies of war equipment to the British. So we have been involved in the war from that standpoint of Lend-Lease, lending and giving war materials to the British to fight the war. I was in civilian life at that point. I had graduated from high school in 41. So, but I think when I heard it, I think I was in my living room and somebody had called me and told me that there was an attack. At that point, I didn't have the news on or anything, so I got it by hearsay from. When I signed up, my father had just passed away, and I went back to stay with my mother, and I had my papers sent to the 12th Naval District up in Michigan. So when I joined up, instead of staying in the Washington area, in which case I followed up much quicker. But since I went to the 12th Navy District, that's where my papers were and records, and that's where I started up in Michigan. From there to Pensacola, and that's where we got our wings, right on base there. We're able to pick a squadron, which I did, and that was on the USS Midway. You've heard of the Midway. It was a carrier that was named after the Battle of Midway, of course. And at that point, I joined up with the squadron there on the Midway, and we went north in the North Atlantic, not the Pacific, but the North Atlantic on Operation Frostbite. Was a sort of an experimental thing set up for a carrier to go into the North Atlantic, up into very frigid waters. And that's where we were fitted up with special flight gear with, we even wore sweatpants and sweatshirts underneath our flight gear. And, the wrist area where water could seep in around gloves, those were all tied off. This was a rubberized suit. This was meant to protect us in case we went down in the Pacific, in the Atlantic, I mean. And that was the whole purpose of Operation Frostbite, to go up there and to experiment with regular flight operations off of a carrier in extreme cold weather conditions.